It is time for Political Breakfast. We are live this morning. Strategists Brian Robinson and Tharon Johnson both here to give their take on Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump selecting first-term Ohio U.S. Senator JD Vance as his running mate. He wasted no time in making that announcement right at the start of the GOP convention in Milwaukee. Good morning to both of you. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Morning, Lisa.
Good morning. Tharon, I imagine Democrats are watching this pretty closely. So you first, what are your thoughts on Senator J.D. Vance?
Well, historically, a presidential candidate, he or she tries to pick a VP running mate that will sort of be an additive to their campaign. They will be able to go out and bring new voters to the party and try to expand the electorate. And so the fact that Donald Trump selected Senator JD Vance as his nominee, I just don't get it because I think that he is appealing to a MAGA right base that is already fired up about Donald Trump. There are striking similarities in these two gentlemen, but I just want to remind your listeners, Lisa, that this 2-year senator, he's brand new senator from Ohio, has been very critical of the former president, said he was a never Trumper. He talked bad about him, said he was bad for the country, bad for the working class. And he also is a person who has fully endorsed this Project 2025. He compared abortion to slavery. He wants, he wants basically a national ban on abortion. And then also his sort of turning point in his career where I think he became very appealing to Trump, and we've talked a lot about this on your show, Lisa, is when President Biden had a viable solution to deal with our crisis at the border around immigration. This Senator J.D. Vance led the effort because Trump did not want it to happen because it would give President Biden political points. It would give him an advantage. This senator led the charge against that. So I just want our listeners to know that as you complain about immigration and the crisis at the border, this guy, under the direction of former President Trump, led the effort to derail that plan.
Brian, let's get you in here. Is J.D. Vance good for the ticket?
Well, I would point out there is precedent for bringing on to the ticket someone who has attacked you in the past. Tharon will remember that in the primaries of the 2020 election, Kamala Harris said that President Biden was a racist and a segregationist back in the 1970s and really had a really awkward exchange during a debate that made it really strange to me that Biden went back to her. It was such a personal and vile attack on him. J.D. Vance does balance the ticket in some ways, the main way being a balance on the one issue that all Americans are talking about, and that is age. This is someone who, if he were a political breakfast panelist, would be the...
Did we lose Brian there? Tharon, let's pick up till we get Brian back there. How do you think, from the Democrat perspective, how do you think Vance will resonate here in Georgia?
Well, he's going to fire up our base. And I think, Brian made the comparison just then that, yes, political folks say bad things about each other. But he actually just confirmed my point, Lisa. Kamala Harris motivates a different demographic of the Democratic Party, and she's appealing to independent voters. Now, what Democrats are going to be able to do, we're already doing it, Lisa. I commended President Biden for taking a temporary pause because of the attempted assassination on former President Donald Trump. Now the campaign is back full-fledged mode, and it's sort of making sure that we make the comparison and contrast between the two candidates. I think Vice President Kamala Harris in the debate with now vice presidential candidate on the Republican side, JD Vance, is going to be a turning point in the campaign. I think you'll see these two, this woman and man, with Kamala Harris, now vice president, being a former U.S. senator, will be able to crystallize to the American people that this gentleman, he's young, he's 39 years old, and that was the point that B-Rob was about to make. He would definitely be the youngest person on this conversation, other than Lily, who I think is younger than him. But I think that he definitely is a radical right Republican that's trying to help a presidential candidate win the middle. I think independent voters, moderate voters, the more they learn about JD Vance, the less compelled and more appealing the Trump ticket would be to them.
Brian, do we have you back here? Well,
yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, finish your thought there. Do you think he's good for the ticket?
Absolutely. I think he's telegenic. He is super smart. I do think that the debate could be a turning point, but not perhaps the way that Democrats think it will. This is a Yale Law School guy, and not only a Yale Law School grad, but someone who got there coming out of the roots of poverty in Appalachia in Ohio. That's an extraordinary American tale to be able to have that Horatio Alger story, that American dream story. That is a powerful narrative in this country. One, in fact, that Joe Biden has tried to use and make his own brand through the years fairly effectively. So he balances out some of that working class appeal that the Democrats have owned for so many generations now. This is, I think, a turning point within the Republican Party, too. This is a hard turn toward the populist uh, principles that JD Vance brings to the table. And for those who were watching the convention last night, there was the Teamsters president giving a very populist speech that seemed very discordant with what you would normally hear at a Republican convention. So they're really diving into this, looking out for the working class guy and gal story in this campaign.
Look, he talks about working class, and you heard in an earlier segment before we came to this live broadcast where it's been pointed out that JD Vance has been very critical of former President Donald Trump, said that his commitment and his policy to the working class is leading them to a dark place. But the last thing I want to say is this really quickly. This senator, who now is the VP candidate for the Republican Party, called gun violence a fake problem in an efforts to address it, and he said it was a huge distraction at a time when the country has united and trying to call for more unity because of the attempted assassination, where a gun and a bullet grazed the ear of a former president. The conversation around gun violence and responsible gun ownership in this country is going to be front and center. And this is a man who basically said that it was a fake problem and it was basically a huge distraction. He's going to have to answer questions about those comments that have been made.
I think we're going to see a great speech from him this week, and I think it'll be a great test. If he can get past this test and bring that crowd to its feet, there was a lot of energy in that hall last night, that he will establish himself on an important trajectory. It's been a while since we've seen somebody in their 30s on a ticket, and that when you're at that age, you just look different. There is He's much closer to the vast bulk of the American voters out there than Biden and Trump are. And I think that's going to be a great asset in this campaign. This is a look into the next generation of the Republican Party and the direction that it's headed.
All right. Thanks, guys. Got to get out of here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.